Between the plastic bags, blood, guts, cinderblocks, staples, chairs, and everything else that happened at AEW All Out, I think it's safe to say that the violence is well and truly back, which is also the first entry on this list. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that this level of gore, really, is something that AEW should do every single pay-per-view, or all of the time, or anything like that. But the AEW product should be something that is absolutely capable of delivering things like this from time to time. It is part of the company's identity. If you are to be a true challenger brand, which is the preferred term of Tony Khan and other people in the promotion, then you need to be different. You need to offer something that the main competition, in this case WWE, does not. If you produce a product that is calibrated almost in the exact same way as that competition, which is doing better business-wise, then you're going to come off as second rate and a bit of a copycat act. Ultimately, if AEW is to exist in its most creatively stimulating form, it is to be a little bit different. Maybe that comes through increased focus on the in-ring, maybe that comes through a bit of hellacious violence every now and then. Now, I understand that this stuff isn't for everyone, and some people might be turned off by things like Bryan Danielson getting choked with a plastic bag over his head. And you know what? That is absolutely fine, because not everything needs to be for everyone. AEW needs to establish and keep and maintain its own identity. And, bit of horrific violence every now and then can absolutely be part of that. I'm a sicko, I enjoyed it. Number 9, Swerve Strickland's Doom Spiral. So, seems like Swerve is heading for a bit of time off after All Out, and he absolutely should, just to sell the horrific impact of that unsanctioned lights out cage match with Hangman Page. Hangman Page has taken everything from this man now. He beat the hell out of him in an absolutely brutal and disgusting match in all the right ways. He burned down his childhood home. He has taken an immense mental toll, as well as the physical one, on the former AEW World Champion. And this should be sold for a while before Swerve eventually returns to TV. And when he does return to TV, it should commence his next villainous arc in AEW, in my opinion. This should be something of a doom spiral. This should be a man completely losing the plot after going through such hell with his most hated, bitter rival in the company. Swerve shouldn't return the same as when he left. He should feel like a man who has lived through the worst couple of months of his entire life. I'm gonna miss him when he's away, because he's been a real highlight for AEW and one of the wrestlers of the year. And while it does give someone else a chance to step up, there will definitely be a big spot waiting for Mr. Strickland when he comes back. This company's paying him huge amounts of money now, lest we forget. They're gonna keep pushing him, and it's probably going to keep ruling. Number 8, Osprey versus Ricochet. Well, Osprey, of course, defeated Pac at All Out to retain the International Championship, and now it looks like Ricochet is being set up as his next big opponent. It might not happen immediately, because after that match, there was a bit of a backstage kerfuffle between Osprey and Ricochet, where Osprey basically said, hey, come and get your title shot, but first you got to get a few wins. So they're clearly keeping the competitive framework, not just, hey, you've had one match, come and get the title shot, which I like. I like it when they maintain that idea that you have to earn these things, despite these guys being career rivals and all of that. And hey, look, it's not exactly a match that needs a great deal of build in the first place. It's something informed by history. Remember the Best of the Super Juniors match they had, oh man, it must be like 8 years ago now, something like that. Absolutely broke the internet at the time, and they've had many more on the indies prior to Ricochet joining WWE, and Osprey doing his thing over in New Japan. Two preeminent high flyers, two guys who revolutionized that art form, that version of the wrestling art form, I should say. The first match got a lot of people split in different camps, as pro wrestling tends to do in this crazy tribal modern era. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what these two guys can do together. Obviously, while Ricochet's been in WWE doing his sports entertainment thing, Osprey has evolved immensely as a performer, packed on a bit of muscle, changed his style, changed his game, become a good talker, a better talker than he was before, become a better character than he was before. He's fresh off a wonderful match with Pac, real state-of-the-art stuff. Ricochet was that state-of-the-art cutting-edge wrestler in the past. Can he still be that in 2024? Well, after he's gone through these TV matches and made his way to wrestle Will Ospreay for the International Championship, we're gonna find out. Number 7, Shockwave. I'm still not really sure what this is exactly going to be, but on the 6th of September, AEW filed a trademark for Shockwave for the following purposes: entertainment in the nature of wrestling contests and entertainment services in the nature of live professional wrestling performances, as well as some other bits and pieces here and there. At the press conference after All Out, Tony Khan said that AEW was set to create a shockwave through all of wrestling. So it's clear something is in the works. What is it? Who the heck knows? Tony didn't exactly give it away. AEW, does it need another weekly TV show? Probably not, right? You got Dynamite, you got Collision, you got Rampage, you got Ring of Honor as well. I guess if you just can't get enough of this company, then you'd absolutely welcome it with open arms. But producing that amount of TV, producing the amount they have right now is difficult enough. A third one, it presents certain risks and challenges. Who knows? Maybe it's a pay-per-view. We'll see. We'll find out. It's an interesting thing for the company to do regardless, particularly as at this point their pay-per-view names are kind of established, assuming things like World's End and all that become like annual affairs. Maybe it's just a TV special like they used to do. Who knows? Tell you what, Phil, let me know in the comments below. What do you think Shockwave is? Do you think it'll be good? Do you think it'll be bad? Do you think it'll be in the middle? I don't know. Tell me below. Yes. Number 6, the End of Danielson. Bryan Danielson has a heck of a lot of different things going on coming out of All Out, of course. He beat Jack Perry on the show, and the big talking point after that was the major angle in which the entire Blackpool Combat Club, apart from a howling Wheeler Yuta, pretty much turned on the guy. He's the AEW World Champion, but he was choked out with a plastic bag after Claudio Castagnoli and the boys put an absolute beating on him. It looks like the remainders of the BCC are now aligned with Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir, and Moxley obviously has been teasing that AEW is not Tony Schiavone's promotion anymore. Maybe he was talking to Danielson in that initial promo. Who the heck knows? But he's been building this for a couple of weeks. The big turn happened on the show. I thought it was very shocking for the use of the plastic bag. A little nod to Terry Funk, who's one of Jon Moxley's wrestling heroes. But Danielson, of course, has said that his neck is all kinds of cooked and he's going to be taking some time off once he loses the AEW World title. But there is plenty for this man to do. So if he steps away in a couple of weeks, that would be understandable. If he steps away, I don't know, next year, hey, there's so much on the table. You obviously have Darby Allin, a Grand Slam. You could also revisit that match later down the line if you wanted to, but the Moxley thing is now a consideration. They could do that match. They could run him against Claudio Castagnoli as well after his role in the angle. You could do Pac if you wanted. I know he's just lost, but you could build up to it. There's the Wheeler Yuta question to answer as well. What's he going to end up doing? Is he going to be a tag team partner? Is he going to join up with Danielson after being so upset? Or is he going to betray him as well? You could also say, hey, Hangman Page won a pretty big match. More on him later. Maybe he should be thrown back into the title picture. Who the heck knows? Either way, Danielson's creative table is a veritable vegan feast. He has no shortage of options. If he's hungry, he is going to be very well fed indeed. This analogy is extremely tired. The point is that Bryan Danielson is in a really good place creatively. Number 5, Daniel Garcia's future revealed. We're gonna have to learn something about Daniel Garcia's AEW future soon, aren't we? The word before this show was that he still hadn't re-signed with AEW, but people within WWE, according to Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, were of the belief that he was gonna re-sign with AEW. So he wrestles MJF on the show, and in most pro wrestling formats, you would think that the babyface would get the victory here, as revenge for being put on the shelf, as revenge for being bloodied up. So he ended up losing via punched him in the dick, kicked him in the dick, whatever, and a little roll up. Garcia loses the match, but he gets a bit of revenge at the end, beating MJF down and then going through the crowd and celebrating and all that stuff. So, he did get a bit of shine in the end, even if he did lose the match. Now, according to Fightful, as of that report, which I think came out on Sunday, Garcia, no word on whether or not he'd actually re-signed with AEW up to that point. I think it's interesting nonetheless. I'm not sure that even if Garcia was leaving, I'd have had him lose, right? Because MJF is due to take some time off to go and film a movie, apparently. So what you could do is have Garcia just get his revenge because it's a better pro wrestling story and you leave the politics at the door, right? And then MJF comes back. If Garcia's gone to WWE, for example, MJF could go, hey, he ran away. I won in the end. And that's perfect heel fodder because he's speaking nonsense and it's perfect. But either way, that question will be answered soon. I think wrestling-wise, he's a very good fit in AEW, but at the same time, he has had a lot of stop-start experiences there. So I would understand if it didn't end that way. Either way, good match with MJF. Bit of confusion on the finish from my point of view, however. Number 4, a title push for Chris Statlander. This might be a little bit difficult to do in the interim, as both Mercedes Moné and Mariah May, they're heels, and so is Chris Statlander. So you're doing a heel versus heel feud, it doesn't always work. But it's about time to do something pretty major with Chris Statlander. I think her match with Willow Nightingale on the show was one of, it was one of my matches of the night, maybe the match of the night. I thought it was absolutely awesome. When they do these plunder brawls in the AEW Women's Division, they always work extremely hard and they kill it, which is quite remarkable because those stipulations, we've kind of seen them all. But they do a great job every single time, and Chris is at the forefront of that. Willow is too, for that matter. But yeah, I think it's time for AEW to really start investing in Statlander as a leading figure in her division. She is a sensational wrestler. She's been one of the best wrestlers in the division since she came to the company years ago. She had to work through injury and stuff like that, of course, but now I feel like she's finally primed for something huge here. It might take a couple of months, maybe a couple of title changes here and there, but installing her as a leading figure with a belt over her shoulder would be just wonderful. Number 3, Hangman Page's grief arc. This was a harrowing steel cage match between Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland, and Hangman's character arc coming out of this is going to be extremely interesting. He wasn't celebrating afterwards, he wasn't reveling in victory or anything like that. He walked up the ramp and, he looks, just completely dead, numb to it all. There's a brief moment where he starts coming back down, but then he changes his mind. He stands at the top of the ramp and you kind of see a fleeting moment of grief in his eyes and pain and agony, and afterwards he thinks again about going down the babyface tunnel, but changes his mind and goes down the heel route. So this man is one of the best character actors in wrestling today. He might be the best. He does a tremendous job every single time. It never comes off like melodramatic or over the top or ham-fisted or anything like that. He's just a natural at this whole character business. And, he's got this win over Swerve technically, but is it really a win? Did he really beat him? Like, after all, he had to sacrifice in kayfabe, and on top of that, the referee made the call, not Page. It wasn't his decisive chair shot, but, whatever. And also, the match was unsanctioned, so it's not a win in AEW's record books, and that might feel quite empty to a man who literally burned down the childhood home of his rival to get to this stage. There's just a plethora of really rich, deep character stuff to digest with Hangman Page, and I think we're here for a sorrowful arc for the next few months. Everything isn't suddenly better because he won at the pay-per-view. In fact, that win barely registers as one at all. Number 2, Hangman Page's redemption arc, which comes after the grief period for Hangman. Look, since day one in AEW, this guy, Hangman, he's been at the center of so many of the company's most important storylines, right? His initial stuff with the Elite and Kenny Omega and the Tag Team Championships, his rise to becoming AEW World Champion, his story with the Dark Order, and of course now the Swerve Strickland rivalry, which is the definitive AEW rivalry of this era of the promotion. Hangman Page is a storyteller at heart. And before long, I do believe you're going to get that redemption arc. Look, All In is going to Texas next year. Hangman's from Texas. It just makes a lot of sense. What if we fantasy book this right now, right? Swerve Strickland comes back as a heel, eventually regains the AEW World title, and then finally, it's All In Texas. Hangman, in a sanctioned match as a face, gets his big win over his rival. I think that'd be excellent. Long-term booking, long-term storytelling. It's the kind of stuff that we all tune in to this wrestling business for, and I'm sure you Hangman freaks out there would agree. And at number 1, a new era of television. So the AEW TV deal still wasn't here at the time I'm recording this, but it sounds like it's pretty imminent. Tony Khan at the All Out post-show press thing said that the AEW deal 100% exists, and there's a 90% chance it will be announced this month. I kind of hope it is because the updates are so incremental, but It's in the works, and it's almost certainly going to happen. Look, AEW is going to be absolutely fine. There's all kinds of hand-wringing over situations like this, but it's nonsense. Dynamite is continually in the top-ranked shows every single Wednesday. For its time slot, Collision does very well as well. It's very easy for people to isolate individual weeks of like, oh, Collision only did 300,000 and all of this stuff. But look, at the end of the day, none of that matters. It's just noise. The television partners, Warner Brothers Discovery, are evidently happy with how the company is performing. AEW is going to get a significant increase on its current deal. Not that that will satisfy the Bischoffs of the world and other people whose entire personality is based around bashing AEW. They'll just move the goalposts. If AEW gets $1 billion TV deal, they'll be like, why not $2 billion? If it's $10 billion, it would be, why is it not $100 billion? You know, all of those figures are crazy huge, but the point remains. The goalposts change every single time. It doesn't matter what AEW does. Some people are always going to pick a fault in it. But look, the company is about to enter a brand new era of television on the same networks, admittedly, but with a whole new level of financial might behind it. That's not to say they lack it. Tony Khan and his dad are kind of rich, but the company's fine. We don't need to pretend otherwise anymore. Coming out of this pay-per-view and All In, everything feels a little bit re-energized. It feels like it's reclaimed a bit of its identity back. Towards the end of the year, we'll get the Continental Classic again, hopefully. That was awesome last year. No reason to believe it won't be this year as well. You've got injured wrestlers like Eddie Kingston who are going to come back eventually. Adam Cole as well. Look, it's the company's in a good place, creatively and business-wise. Let's all just be happy and just like enjoy stuff. It feels nice. It feels nice in your soul when you do that. Bye.